You are looking at the car that will win the 1964 Indianapolis 500. That's not a threat, it's a promise. In desperation, because I could not find any speed in the Lotus chassis, whether with the Ford engine or with the Offenhauser engine, that I felt was sufficient to get the job done and win the Indianapolis 500 this year. Only 152 miles an hour out of the car, which ironically enough would have been good enough for the pole position in 63. Didn't feel like it was going to be that significant in 64. I feel like there's going to be a significant speed increase. Enter the Hallebrand chassis. I kind of bought this out of desperation. It's got a very gaudy paint scheme, but it is very fast. Over 160 miles an hour in private testing, and I think that will put me at least on the front row, possibly the pole for the Indianapolis 500. Now, there is a bit of a bittersweet note about not only this car, but about the race in 1964. Of course, 1964 was the year of the terrible, horrible accident, fiery crash on the second lap, which took the lives of Dave McDonald and Eddie Sachs. Now, Sachs was driving a Hallebrand chassis. I think he was possibly the only driver in the field to be doing so. However, his death was not necessarily a cause, or was caused by the Hallebrand chassis, but more because of the fact that there was so much fuel on board his car, particularly gasoline. You may notice there's a Marathon logo on the front of the car. That was one of the primary sponsors and one of the reasons that Sachs chose to race with gasoline rather than methanol fuel. However, it probably wouldn't have made much of a difference because he T-boned poor Dave McDonald, who spun, hit the inside wall, and came back across the track into traffic. And when poor Eddie Sachs T-boned him, it turned into an absolute, looked like a nuclear bomb. A horrible, horrible accident. So we're going to try to get some glory for this Hallebrand chassis and do a good job in the memory of Eddie Sachs and also Dave McDonald in this race. I would assume that both of them are going to qualify, but you never know. This is Indianapolis 500 qualifying, and anything can happen on Indy 500 month.
Laps, 10 miles. You have to be super fast and consistent to make the grade at Indianapolis. A great speed.
So 43 cars have entered the 1964 48th running of the Indianapolis 500. Art Malone on the pole position at 149. I don't think that'll stand for very long, but he's still holding on to the, he's still holding on to the pole. Bob Wente goes second at 148. So it seems like at the moment my 160 in private testing may do pretty well. 150 miles an hour for Bud Tingelstad, who was not very fast at Trenton, though he was faster than me, but that's not saying much. Thomas Atto goes to fourth. That may be a bubble speed right there, as Norm Hall goes to second. Not a lot of big names yet, but this is going to change things as Dan Gurney passes on his first attempt. Only 3 attempts, so if I screw up in this attempt, I've only got 2 more to go. And then I'll have to qualify on bump day, as Johnny White puts it in the show at 149 miles an hour. Jimmy Clark is going to be an interesting benchmark as he passes. And down through the rest of the field, let's look at the entry list. 43 cars, as you can see, showing up for 33 spots. And this is going to be pretty crazy. So let's see what the Hallebrand can do. My teammate, I guess, in terms of the Hallebrand chassis is Eddie Sachs. You can see him just behind Parnelli Jones. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do in qualifying after me. All right, put up or shut up time here at Indianapolis. 4 laps. Got to get it done. Got to put together a good average speed, not just 1 lap, as Bob Jenkins just reminded me, and I'll remind you, the viewers, because I had to pause the game to turn off the racing line, and going through the grass immediately on the outlap is probably not the best thing in the entire world, but I'm back on the track and ready to get rolling here in the Hallebrand. Beautiful race car, honestly. American built, as many of the Lotus clones were. The Lotus was such a revolutionary car in 63 that everybody tried to copy it. There's actually a fantastic book on the 1964 Indianapolis 500. They should definitely read. I've forgotten the title of it, but I want to say rapid response, but I know that's not right. I'm sure someone will remind me of the... Oh, Black Noon. That's the name of the book. And it's a fantastic history lesson on exactly what led up to the tragedy in 1964. Of course, in real life, A.J. Foyt took the victory. The final front-engine car win in Indy 500 history from 1965 on. It was all rear-engine cars. But you never know what's going to happen in this game in particular. I believe we have... no, we did not have a rear-engine car win the 500 last year. 1963. I believe it was Parnelli Jones, if I'm not mistaken. But I could be mistaken. I don't think a rear-engine car has won just yet. So, coming off of turn 4 on the warm-up lap, ready to get the qualification attempt underway. What's my warm-up speed going to be? 162.4. So there you go. Pretty good on the warm-up. That's well good enough for pole. Were I to hold together the average, not even using the entire track at the moment, I was pretty cautious going into turn 1, just trying not to slide the car. Man, I wish I'd bought this Hallobrand earlier, I'll tell you what. I think I probably could have actually broken the Trenton curse in this car. But regardless, we're here now. We've got it for the one that counts, I suppose. Nobody remembers who won at Trenton Speedway in 1964, but I bet a lot of people remember that AJ won in 64 at Indianapolis. So we're going for the history books right now. Trying to put this car not only on the front row, but in pole position. Haven't had a pole position since, I believe, 61. My rookie year, I believe I was on the pole. But we'll see. Crossing the line, 161, so lost a little bit of speed there. From the warm-up lap. So time to start using a little bit more road here, get a little bit more brave. Try to get the car up to speed. Probably lifted off a little too much through turn 2. And theoretically, if I'm not happy with this speed, I could wave off and go later in the day and try to go for the pole again. You do have extra attempts or extra time on pole day, assuming the original qualifying line is completed before the time runs out on qualifying, to go again for the pole. But that is a bit risky if the big entry list doesn't get filed through. Then again, only 43 cars. You'd assume they'd be able to get it done, but it doesn't matter. 162.5 miles an hour on that one, almost 150, 162.6, I should say, not 152. 152 would still, at the moment, be good enough for pole, but we're 10 miles an hour over that speed that I was running in the 63 Lotus. So this is an absolutely well-balanced car right now. You may also notice that I switched over to a 5-speed transmission from a 4-speed. I think that's helping significantly as well with my speed. So I really missed the apex there in turn 3. Going to use a lot of road on the exit there. And try to drive off of turn 4 a little bit better, right down on the apron. Now 3 and 4 wasn't that good that time, have to admit. Going to have to try to put it together again on the final lap. Again, averaging probably over 162 miles an hour right now. Down a mile an hour on lap 3 because of that poor turn 3. So let's see if I can get it back, get a little bit more speed, maybe go for a 163. I have yet to do a lap that fast in this car, but we'll see. You never know. There's a really good acceleration from the Offenhauser engine down the back straightaway. You can see going to be well over 185, or well over 180, possibly at 185, going into turn 3. On the brakes, on the throttle, sliding the car just a little bit, backing off just a little bit. Woohoo! Really took a big risk there in turn 3. Absolutely used all the road. And off of turn 4, I held my breath this long. And that's pretty cool because I did commentary the entire time as well, right down to the inside wall. That's kind of a modern thing to do. 161.9, doesn't matter, got the pole. So right now, I should. That should update to me on the pole at 162.
He secured his place
Pretty fast right there. Harkey goes to second at 151. Now we're starting to get some big times. And Parnelli Jones is going to be the key to this. 57 from Bobby Marshman goes to second on the front row here. Tommy Mills goes to 146 at 12th position. This is going to be the key. Parnelli. 153. Wow, that's fairly slow from Parnelli. Marshman's in a Lotus, though, so it looks like... Oh, and Eddie Sachs, 150. Wow. I'm 12 miles an hour faster than my Hallebrand chassis teammate. Not sure how that works. Now up to the driver who won the race in 64. AJ Foyt. What have we got? 154 on the outside of the front row. Marshman starts in the middle. I'm still on the pole position by a huge amount of space. 5 miles an hour between myself and Marshman. But again, there's still quite a few Lotuses and rear-engine cars to go. Jack Brabham's one of them. Don't know how fast the Brabham chassis is. I don't think Brabham or a Brabham chassis car showed up at Trenton, so this is kind of an unknown. And he goes to 9th position in his Brabham. Cheeseborg goes to 18th at 148. Probably going to be pretty safe on that speed, especially considering how many people are in the low 140, or the mid 140s, I should say, with Rob Williams there. Hurtubise at 152 goes to 6th position. I believe he's running a front-engine car. Dave McDonald, pretty safe into the field as well. 11th at the moment, 150 miles an hour. Ooh, Ian Cadman into the wall. And now we've got John Power. He crashes as well. Boy, oh boy. This is going to eat up the time remaining in today's... Wow, 3 crashes in a row. Hey, maybe clean the track there, USAC. Clean the track. So, 149 for Bob Mathauser. In 18th position overall. Don Branson, my rival from early on in the career mode, goes to 152 in 8th position. So all 43 have gone through the line. Lots of crashes there at the end of the line. 29 cars have qualified. Still a lot to go and a lot of big names as well. So let's see what happens towards the end of pole day. We still got 2.5 hours.
After the run through the draw for another chance at the pole for drivers yet to post a speed.
Bob Jenkins explains it very well. Johnny Rutherford goes to 12th position, 150.9. Bobby Unser, Uncle Bobby, on the outside of the front row in a Novi, I believe that's what he's driving. Roger Ward bumps him off the front row, though, in a rear-engined Watson. And then Ronnie Durman goes to 26th position on the 148. That's probably a safe speed, but we'll see. And the first bump of the day goes to Dan Gurney, who qualifies his car 6th on the grid. I believe he's in a Lotus. Dick Rathman, 150.0 in 22nd position. That's the second bump. Jimmy Clark goes to 2nd. So it's an all rear-engine front row with 2 Lotuses on the front row. But again, I'm well ahead of Jimmy Clark, so that is fantastic considering how fast Clark was at Indianapolis. Or how fast Clark is at Indianapolis. Steve London, 146, and he is actually on the bubble. Bumps his way into the field, but it's still going to be a question of whether or not he can get into the race. I don't know how many cars are going to actually qualify on bump day. Let's find out. So Steve London on the bubble. Ian Cadman, who crashed in qualifying on pole day, going to try to bump his way in. Does he? No, he crashes again. So that's 2 attempts down for Ian Cadman. And we're going to wait for Johnny Boyd. Should be able to bump his way in pretty easily, I would imagine. And yeah, 151.9, so almost 152 miles an hour. That's going to be a pretty fast car going from the back.
Must be on edge in the pit.
Bob Winty on the bubble. A real-life driver. Ian Cadman goes to 145 on his final attempt. Does not make the show. Chuck Stevenson, is he going to bump out Winty? Let's see. Stevenson goes to 150.3. He does bump out Bob Winty. And we're waiting. Ronnie Duman on the bubble in the pink and purple. Beautiful roadster there. 146 for John Power. Can't bump out Duman. Who else have we got in line? No other qualifiers. That means that Ronnie Duman is going to sit on the bubble, make the show in 31st position. And this is your grid of 33 drivers. and I take my second Indianapolis 500 pole position. A track record, I'm pretty sure, by a long way at 162.0 miles per hour, and that is a fast front row, all over 155 miles an hour. In fact, the first 4 drivers are over 155 miles an hour. The best of the front-engine drivers is Bobby Unser in 5th, and A.J. Foyt, of course, also in a front-engine roadster in the 2nd row. So let's take a look here at the starting grid with me on the pole position with the Hallebrand. That's pretty fantastic. Jimmy Clark, who won at Trenton in dominant fashion, is going to be trying to back up that performance down through the rest of the field. There is your starting grid, a very strong grid here. And just taking a look at the drivers we want to take a look at here, Dave McDonald starting in 19th place, Eddie Sachs all the way down in 22nd. Those are actually fairly realistic starting positions for their actual Indy 500s. Some other big names, Parnelli Jones starting 8th, deep in the field, Dan Gurney 7th. Yeah, just look at, that's a who's who of drivers in the first 10, no doubt about it. So in the next video, it'll be the 1964 running of the Indianapolis 500. Hope you've enjoyed qualifying. If you did, hit the like on this video, subscribe for more Indy 500 month coverage and Indy 500 Evolution, and we'll see you in the next video where I will lead the field to green in Indianapolis.